You're listening to Soundside. I'm Libby Dankman. There's a major reshuffling of leadership happening at one of the video game industry's top companies. After 38 years at Microsoft, Phil Spencer is stepping away from his role as CEO of Microsoft Gaming. His was an incredibly long tenure, and it's leaving many to wonder what it means for Xbox, Microsoft Gaming, and gamers alike. To get more, we're joined by Todd Bishop. Todd is a business and technology journalist and, by the way, the co-founder of Geekwire. Hey, Todd, thanks for being back on the show.
My pleasure, Libby.
So who is Phil Spencer? What has he meant to Microsoft's gaming business?
Yeah, Phil Spencer is really a legend around Microsoft. He's been there for 38 years overall, as you said, and for the past dozen years, he's led gaming. He really turned Xbox from kind of a struggling console brand into a broader gaming platform. And I was looking this up. He nearly tripled the size of the Xbox business. He led huge acquisitions, ZeniMax and Bethesda, Activision Blizzard, which is best known for Call of Duty, Minecraft, cloud gaming, PCs, handhelds, Game Pass as a subscription model. I mean, the Xbox as it exists today as a business is largely due to Phil Spencer's leadership. And, he's a gamer himself. And so he has that kind of credibility inside that world that I think really burnished the Xbox brand along the way.
And the new gaming CEO at Microsoft is going to be somebody named Asha Sharma. Who is Asha Sharma? And does her background give any clues about the direction of Microsoft gaming?
Well, Asha Sharma, let me just say, this was a total shocker to me. I've actually covered Asha Sharma for many years, back to her time in the Seattle startup community. She was the chief marketing officer and chief operating officer at a company called Porch, home services technology. It's still around. And so she did that. Then she went on to Meta, Instacart, and then back to Microsoft, where she got her start as an intern out of college just a couple of years ago.
But notably, none of those companies are video game companies.
Right. She is not a video game industry executive. And until earlier this year, when it seems perhaps Satya Nadella and Phil Spencer came to her and said, hey, you might want to think about this Xbox thing, she really wasn't a gamer. She just established her Xbox Live gamer tag in January. A lot of the gaming sites dug this up. And she acknowledges that. And one of the things that I think Microsoft is hoping is that she'll come in with fresh eyes and be able to bring some new energy and some new ideas to this longtime franchise.
Yeah, is the idea that that's maybe helpful because she can act as a new consumer and maybe help bring in new fans? I mean, what do you think is behind that?
I think that's part of it. I also think this is a realization on the part of Microsoft that Xbox, even though they're saying it's going to keep the console at the core, Xbox will eventually be bigger, and it already is a lot bigger with things like Game Pass and cloud gaming. And Asha Sharma's experience is in platforms and AI, and her most recent role was as president of the Core AI product group. So she has those connections to the larger world of Microsoft and technology. And she's also relatively young. She's in her late 30s. And I think that also was probably appealing to them, just as somebody who could bring that different kind of generational approach to something that, has been run for the most part over the years at Microsoft by old white men.
What about the other changes happening at Microsoft Gaming? I mean, Sarah Bond leaving as president of the Xbox division around the same time that Phil Spencer is departing. What do you read into these leadership, this leadership shuffle?
This seems to be at least an implicit message from Satya Nadella that the way Xbox has been going, even with all of the credibility that Phil Spencer has, is not enough. You've seen revenue declines in recent quarters at Xbox. And it seems that Sarah Bond was passed over for Asha Sharma. And it sort of sends a signal by Satya Nadella that he wanted somebody with a lot of platform and operations experience. And he valued that more than specific game experience. Now, at the same time, they promoted an executive named Matt Booty to chief content officer, basically overseeing all of these 40 studios, the game studios that Microsoft has. So they're kind of doing it's almost like a Jobs and Wozniak thing where you've kind of got the business person in Asha Sharma, I guess Steve Jobs, and you've got the tech creative person in Matt Booty. That that comparison is not perfect, but you get the idea.
Sure, yeah. There have been a lot of articles, blog posts, reaction in industry media and social media, basically doomsaying, like predicting the end of the Xbox era because of these moves, and the idea that this is Microsoft's way of sunsetting Xbox. What's behind that pessimism, do you think, Todd?
Pessimistic gamers.
Wait, what? Are you saying that there's like gatekeeping or other types of, cynicism issues in the gaming community? I can't believe that.
So, certainly all of that could be true, but at least if you compare it to what Microsoft has said publicly, it does fall more into the realm of conspiracy theory, which, hey, maybe the conspiracy is correct. But Satya Nadella has said that gaming is central to Microsoft's consumer ambitions. It has more than 500 million monthly active users. And Asha Sharma has made it clear as well that she is not getting rid of the Xbox as a console. One of the things that she's doing coming in is really looking to see what works and to amplify that. And she's also been very clear that she is not just coming in and saying, hey, let's apply AI to all of this. And she made a specific comment about not wanting to just promote AI slop. So you can see where the conspiracy theory and at least the reality of what Microsoft is saying do not match up in that way.
38 years leading gaming at Microsoft is an incredible tenure for Phil Spencer. What do you think his legacy is going to be?
I think those acquisitions are a huge part of it. You've got the ZeniMax and Bethesda acquisitions, Activision Blizzard, which is not just Call of Duty, it's Candy Crush, Minecraft.
World of Warcraft, yeah.
Yes. I mean, iconic franchises that are now Microsoft properties. And that, $69 billion Activision Blizzard acquisition was record-setting, and it was very difficult to pull off. I mean, Microsoft had to jump through so many regulatory hoops to do that. So that is one. I think the push into cloud gaming, Game Pass as a subscription model, I think that's a big part of it, and that ties into the larger theme of what Microsoft and the rest of the tech industry are doing in terms of shifting to the cloud and services as opposed to software in the traditional sense. But to me, the fact that he signed every letter or every message with his gamer tag, and he was just a visible gamer himself. He would wear his gaming T-shirts under his blazers. And, he really positioned Xbox against Sony and Nintendo as kind of a player-friendly brand at a time when the brand was really coming off of a rough generation with the Xbox 360 and as struggles with the initial Xbox One launch.
Are you a gamer, Todd? I'm a gamer. I'm curious. What's your level of experience with this world?
Yeah, it's funny. I cover Xbox. The answer is not really anymore. I cover Xbox more through the lens of Microsoft's coverage, the broader Microsoft coverage that I do. And in that way, maybe I have too much empathy with Asha Sharma. I'm sort of on the outside looking into this world. It's funny, when I played Xbox Live, my experience sort of ended in the Halo 2 era, and I purposefully chose the gamer tag Nathaniel York. And the reason I did that was because that was the name of the first captain in the Martian Chronicles who arrives on the planet and immediately gets shot. And that was my joke. In my own self-deprecating way.
There's a lot of layers to that, yeah.
To all the sci-fi nerds playing Halo 2 live that they had me.
Yeah. I almost feel like Asha Sharma, as I said, I'm a gamer. I'm more of a RPG, run around. I liked Baldur's Gate, and things like that. Games that are a little bit more laid back. You can strategize. It's, you can kind of take your time. And I think that Xbox has always felt to me like very Halo dominated, very like first person shooter sort of vibe. And maybe there is something about a woman taking over there that is kind of making me think, maybe I'll take a second look at, where the direction that they're going. Maybe that's too simplistic and too, gender normative of me. But, that it is sort of an interesting move for them to go in that direction, especially with the history of women in gaming. Folks might know the term Gamergate, who knows anything about the video game industry. That's kind of my reflection at this point, just on the surface.
I think that's a great point. And one of the things, and perhaps this is my own bias in thinking about games, and it's in part because the main way I've covered games over the years is through the lens of Microsoft, to your point. But it's not just console games. In fact, if anything, the dominant form of gaming is on our phones or our iPads.
Yeah.
And if you sit on a plane and you look around, there are people of all ages and generations and genders and racial backgrounds that are playing all sorts of different games. And oftentimes it could be Candy Crush, or it could be all of the kind of mobile games. I love to pass time on the plane with sort of my own version of Tetris that's on my Android. So yeah, to your point, gaming is much bigger than the console, but traditionally the console has been the driver of Microsoft's gaming business. And it seems at least like they're trying to strike that balance of catering to the hardcore gamers, the nucleus of that market, while at the same time expanding it to a much broader population.
Todd Bishop, business and technology journalist and co-founder of Geekwire, thanks again.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Soundside. Don't forget you can listen live on KUOW 94.9 Seattle at noon and 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, or anytime right here online at KUOW.org, or of course on your favorite podcast app.